Ford Mustang Mach-E has taken another step toward living up to the legend of the Mustang name with the addition of a new GT model that you can order now ahead of deliveries this fall. I'm Fox News Autos editor Gary Gastelou, and joining me in the Fox Garage to talk about it is the Mach-E program director, Dave Perasek. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Gary.
So Mach-E GT, 480 horsepower, more than a Mustang GT, up to 634 pound-feet of torque, more than a Mustang GT 500. How do you get, and a lot more than the regular Mach-E's as well that have come out already. How do you get there? In an internal combustion engine car, you're adding pistons, turbochargers, superchargers. Are you just getting more electricity to the motors that are already there, re-engineering the motors, or are these completely new motors like swapping a V6 for a V8?
Well, you know, it is a different world we're in, Gary. So we definitely are increasing the motors. So we increased the motor size in the front of the GT. So basically using the same motor that we have in the rear, we now have brought that motor forward, and we have two of those motors now, and that's what's generating all that torque and that horsepower that you're talking about right now. And so it just gives you an amazing amount of performance. I mean, 0 to 60, 3.5 seconds, Gary, on the Performance Edition. That's like supercar territory. So, you know, this thing is just wicked fast, and you know, it gives you that instantaneous torque, and that's what we've always wanted with Mustang.
Now, you're promoting this as a track-ready vehicle. I know people have already been bringing Mach-E's to the drag strip. Is this actually the kind of car you think people are going to be taking to road courses to lapping days?
I sure hope so, Gary. I mean, I tell you what, we spent a lot of time to make sure this does perform as a Mustang in the way you want it to. I mean, the Performance Edition, for instance, well, both the GTs, it's lowered 10 millimeters. The Performance Edition has the MagneRide suspension in it. We've got summer tires, Pirelli P0s on the Performance Edition. The wheels themselves are 8 inches wide versus 7 inches on the standard Mach-E. And so everything about this, Gary, has been designed to go out and perform on the track. And so I sure hope people take it out.
Now, one issue we've seen with very powerful electric cars in the past is that you can take them to the track, but not for very long. They start to overheat. They start to restrict their power. If I go to a 20-minute lapping session, am I going to be able to finish it in this car, or is it going to ask me to pull over halfway through?
Well, I'm glad you're asking that. I mean, listen, we've got a new mode that we're introducing with the GT. So if you remember the modes that we had before, Whisper, Engage, and Unbridled, that's on the standard Mach-E. We've now added Unbridled Extend. And what is that all about? Well, that's geared towards track performance. So what that is about is giving you a longer period of time to have a ton of fun on the track. Now, we all know that you're pulling electricity out of the battery, so at some point you're going to run out of juice. But what we've been able to do is really maximize that mode to give you all the fun that you're going to want and extend the amount of laps that you can run. So depending on what track you're on, Gary, it'll determine how long you can run. But clearly, this mode has been designed to give you the maximum performance on the track.
And is that mode combined with additional cooling? How do you control the power in this case?
So the mode is combined with a lot of different things. So if you look at the pedal mapping, for instance, so you have more of a one-to-one relationship of your pedal, both gas and brake, actually, with whatever you're controlling, the throttle or the brake. We've opened up the yaw control a little bit, so we're going to let you hang the car out a little bit more when you're on the track. We've looked at the power delivery and optimizing that. So all elements of performing on a track have been addressed in this Unbridled Extend mode, and it's something cool.
Now, this weighs probably 1,000 pounds more than a similarly sized vehicle with an internal combustion engine. If you had the same weight, same power, internal combustion engine, and electric powertrain, in this case is all-wheel drive, what's better for you as an engineer to tune for that track performance? Are these easier to do things with, all things equal?
I wouldn't say easier. It provides a different level of challenge. I mean, the cool thing about it is that the batteries themselves, Gary, take your center of gravity and really lower it, right? It's not as low as a ICE version of the Mustang, but it's pretty darn close. And so you don't really have, a lot of people look at this and say, well, it's an SUV. Well, it's not really an SUV, and it's in the way that the weight is distributed. Like I said, those batteries keep your center of gravity really low. The challenges that we face, though, when you're talking about electric vehicles and performance on the track, you get that instantaneous torque. And what you want to make sure that you do is you can modulate that torque, especially as you're going in and out of turns. You've been on the track driving. If you have that torque snap too fast, that can cause some unnatural things to occur. So one of the things that we have to manage as engineers is having all of that available torque instantaneously. It's great at times, and then sometimes you've got to be able to throttle that back a little bit. So it just presents different challenges.
Now, this has a range of 250 miles in the regular version, 235 in the performance edition. I've been to the track with a GT 500, and I've practically emptied the tank in 20 minutes of hard lapping. Is this going to run out this quickly? Does this have range with your foot to the floor?
Well, again, I mean, it depends on the track you're on and whether you're driving or I'm driving. But no, you're definitely going to obviously deplete the battery, and that's the challenge that a lot of EVs has is, how can you get that sustained power? So, our battery technology is changing all the time. It's getting better and better. The way that we manage that energy, the way we cool the batteries, the way we approach all of this is getting better and better with each and every model that we bring out. So again, the GT is ready to go out on the track. You're going to be able to perform. You're going to get some sustained performance, especially in that unbridled extend mode. But you will, at some point, you're going to deplete that battery. There's no doubt about it.
Not a cheap car, 60 grand, a little bit more than that for the performance edition. A V8 Mustang's around 40 grand. Is that chalked up completely to the cost and powertrain difference, or is there something significant other than that that's causing that spread?
Well, there's no doubt that the electric powertrain, as you know, especially the battery cost itself, is pretty significant. But I think that, with this vehicle, you're getting all the technology that you would want to have in this product that you don't have in some of the products that you're mentioning right now. And so whether it's over-the-air update capability, whether it's, a lot of the infotainment upgrades and all the things that come along with it, ability to drive, we've announced that we're going to be doing an over-the-air update by the end of the year where we're going to enable hands-free driving. Not only on the GT versions, but obviously on the Mach-E's that were bought previously. So those that have the hardware in them, they're going to be able to have the hands-free driving. So there's a lot of technology that's wrapped up in here, but clearly the batteries are an expense that we all know about. But I'll tell you what, Gary, you got to get behind the wheel of this thing. I mean, this thing is so fun. It's ridiculous.
I know that hands-free feature Blue Cruise, they'll be working on 100,000 miles of mapped highways. Any chance you can map a couple of tracks in there just for fun?
You want to drive? You don't want to drive around the track? You want the car to drive you?
Well, I go for a hot lap with a good driver now and then, so I'd be interested to see how the car could do it on its own.
We're not there yet, Gary. We're not there yet. But I tell you what, I can see in the future that would be. I'll have to take that back and think about it. But not right now.
Look, obviously Ford and the entire industry has been affected by the semiconductor chip shortage. The Mach-E hasn't, though, and I got to imagine you put a lot of chips in that. Is that just indicative of the priority this vehicle is for Ford right now, that you've been keeping production at normal levels?
Yeah, there's no doubt that, everybody's struggling with this. And this is, it's something that we all have to work together to solve. Ford's doing everything that we can to keep production going where we feel that we need to and make sure that we're servicing the needs of our customers. So it's hard to prioritize because you've got a lot of mouths to feed out there, and we're trying to do our best with that. But, everybody's working behind the scenes as hard as they can to fix this problem. And, it goes even beyond the auto industry, Gary, as I'm sure you're aware. I mean, everybody's being affected by this. So we all just need to work together and get through this.
Now, you've got the Mach-E GT. That's significant in the history of the Mustang to put that name on it. Is this a vehicle that you think deserves and could one day wear the Shelby name?
What a great question. You always find ways to try to get future product information out of me, which I think is great. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on that, but listen, we are dedicated, Gary, as you know, to when we said this was going to be a Mustang, we engineered it to be a Mustang, and it's performing as such. And anything that we do with the family of Mustangs will always live up to that name.
All right, Dave Parasak, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
And to read more